Yep, it is recording. Here we go. All right, what's up, everybody? Today I'm going to do a review of 13 Reasons Why with my special guest, my daughter. Say hello, Jessie.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. So anyway, here we go. All right, what's up, guys? I'm nervous, but I've never done a review with somebody next to me, but we just watched this show called 13 Reasons Why the other night, and we binge watched it in 2 days because it was so riveting. I thought, hey, this would be a perfect review to actually sit with my daughter and talk about because she's close at age with the actual actors that are in this movie. She graduated like 4 or 5 years ago, I think, something like that, right?
Yeah, 2013.
So, anyway, we're going to break this movie apart. It's going to be more of a discussion, but also a review. We're going to give a rating and everything. But anyway, let's get started with the synopsis. All right, now I'm sure most of you know what 13 Reasons Why is. It's kind of taken the internet by storm lately, and it's just a relevant topic that's going on today. High school is just a tough landscape, and this really highlights it. And the first thing I thought was, this is something that every high school student should see. I think schools should even show this.
They've been saying that actually all over the internet.
Yeah.
They should show it for every school.
One thing that I noticed about this is, like, the first few episodes, we were even kind of making fun of it. We were like, this seems kind of cliche.
After school special.
Yeah, it felt like an after school special, and I thought, I know how this is all going to end, or it's going to end like you said, very cliche. But then once it picks up, once you get to about the middle of it, it almost like changes tone. It changes almost even color palette wise. It just gets really dark. It gets real.
Yeah, it actually does.
Yeah,
it has some intense scenes in there, actually.
It's very intense. But just to give you a synopsis, the story is really interesting, actually. Right at the beginning of the movie, our main character, Hannah, she's already taken her life. So that's not a spoiler. You go into this knowing that this character has taken her life, but the interesting thing is she leaves behind this set of tapes, 13 sides. And every side kind of points to somebody that directly or indirectly was the cause of this. So that's kind of the hook. What did you think about that premise? Did you like that?
Yeah, it's actually based off the book by Jay Asher, and I read that book actually like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't remember it that well, and it deviated the book to some extent since, you know, that whole, all the interactions with the bullies and all of that with Clay, the main character.
Yep.
None of that really happened. It really was just him in the tapes. All of the stuff with the lawyers and with his being bullied by all of, you know, the contributors to her death. None of that really happened in the book, and I think that was actually kind of essential to put in the show. Yeah. Since they needed 13 episodes. But I did think the premise was really smart. I mean, it was a pretty famous book like 8 years ago, which is why they adapted it into...
Yeah, I'd never even heard of the book. But, you know, oftentimes they deviate from the book to kind of suit the story, because sometimes the story is told better visually than it is, you know, by, you know, reading it. So I think, I haven't read the book obviously, but I like the way that this story unfolded. One thing I really liked was the timeline in this is kind of all over the place, and you can get lost because sometimes, you know, in like another show, you might be like, are we in the past or are we in the present? But this show is handled so well because most of the scenes you'll see maybe a color shift to let you know, that we're in the past. Also, the main character Clay has a scar on his head. So there's all these little things that every time you're watching it, you know exactly where we are. You know if we're past Hannah's death or we are pre-Hannah's death. Okay, now we're going to talk about the characters. This is one of the really strong things I liked about this. When you're doing a TV show, you know, you're given that room to kind of stretch out the characters. And I mentioned at the beginning how I didn't find the characters that interesting at first. They seemed really cliche. Some of them even looked alike. But once the story progresses and once the characters are, I guess the layers are peeled back, then you start seeing who these people really are. And by the time we were at the end of this story, I knew the characters, actually. I knew exactly who Justin was. I knew exactly who Alex was. I knew Clay. I knew Hannah. You know, I'm not even looking at a cheat sheet. I know these characters. I felt like I could relate to them. Who's your favorite character?
Obviously Clay.
Right, I was going to say, everybody's going to love Clay.
Yeah, he's a likable character. I actually did like Alex too, because you can see how he's conflicted by his mistakes. Even though I feel like his mistakes were pretty trivial in comparison to everyone else, but definitely Clay.
Yeah, I think Clay. I think Alex was one of the most essential characters because he's that middle ground. He's not hot nor cold. He's right in the middle, and he throughout some of the show he's on Clay's side, and throughout the other half of the show he's on the, I guess, quote unquote douchebag's side, which brings up a great character to discuss, Bryce. This guy is just a complete douchebag from the beginning of the story.
Literally, the first time you see him, you're like, ugh. I don't even like his face.
Exactly. He was just so cliche. But by the end, you realize that he is almost evil. But still realistic. Like, there are people like Bryce.
Oh, definitely.
In high schools all over America. But he's such a pivotal character because, he actually commits rape to the character Jessica.
Jessica and Hannah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was one of those characters that I love to hate. To me, he was essential to the plot. And by the end of the movie, you just wanted to strangle this guy. He's kind of the Joffrey of the show, I guess.
He is the Joffrey of 13 Reasons Why.
Which brings up another important character, Jessica. What did you think of Jessica?
I felt bad for her for what she went through, but I thought as a person she was not likable in any respect whatsoever. Yeah,
and I think every high school has a Jessica.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and she's not completely bad. She's just young, she's naive.
Selfish.
And I think, she's so absorbed that she's pulled in all these different directions.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the show, you had this kind of trio. You had Hannah, Jessica, and Alex. Mm-hmm. But within, 2 episodes, they had already parted ways because Jessica hooked up with Alex, and then she hooked up with Justin down the line.
And then abandoned Hannah, the protagonist.
Right. But then she ends up becoming one of the most essential characters.
Definitely.
In the end.
She does.
Aside from Hannah, she's probably the one that I felt the most for.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I felt sad at times because of what Jessica was going through, even though she's not the most likable character, but you felt for her.
Oh, definitely, because no one deserves that.
Right.
Obviously.
Now we're going to talk about Hannah. First off, the actress that played this girl, I think she did such a great job. Have you ever seen her in anything?
I don't think so. I think she's a breakout star.
Yeah.
Or somewhat, at least.
Yeah, she did such a great job, though. And the one scene that there's so many great scenes that you could talk about with her. But the one scene that, to me, is one of the most powerful scenes I've seen in a movie or a TV show is the actual suicide scene. Because it just felt so real. Which
was interesting because in the book, she doesn't slit her wrists. It's actually, she takes pills. And I think slitting the wrists made it way more authentic.
Visually, it was so much more powerful. And I've never seen anything like that. I mean, of course, we've seen people, have their wrists slit on screen, but... Not like that. It was very raw. It was extremely raw. And I think I almost, I was going to say I almost cried, but... but also the counselor scene at the end, to me, is one of the most important scenes.
I agree. I think that one...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is the message, right? If counselors in schools don't take a breath and listen to what these students are telling them instead of, I guess, doing the job, because every counselor handles every situation in a certain way. But this really was just a lesson. If a student comes to you and they have a problem, I think the first thing you need to do is listen. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think this would be a point of major controversy, though, because with the counselor, I think a lot of people are, say he's this heinous person who didn't help her. But if you actually watch the show, the recent episode with the rape scene, we saw that. He didn't see it. He didn't know what happened. And the way she expressed that to him was kind of like, I don't really know what happened. No, he didn't force me. No, I didn't say no. If you're a counselor and you're hearing that, you can't call the police and say, oh, this boy is a rapist and ruin his life, when the girl really, she's not expressing to him what really happened.
Right.
I mean, we know that she went through something traumatic. He doesn't know that, and he can't ruin someone's life when the girl isn't actually being so forthcoming with him. Right. And I think that's kind of a point of major controversy, because I think a lot of people are going to see that and say, he's this awful person and really contributed to her death, when really, I think a lot of us in that situation wouldn't necessarily go forward when we don't know the extent of what happened.
Yeah, that's the exact thing. He didn't have all the facts, he didn't have all the information. And
he didn't see what we saw, and that changes things.
Yeah, most of the time they're not going to have all the information. So you kind of got to go by your gut. You got to do something, and you got to play it delicately, because if you don't, you could be saving somebody's life, and that's one thing I loved about this show. So before we give our rating, my daughter, like I said, she probably saw some of this in her high school. Is this something that you ever kind of went through when, you don't have to give too much, but is this something that kind of hit home for you?
Well, of course, you and Mom know this.
Yeah.
But I, throughout high school, was pretty severely bullied myself. I mean, like, people told me to go kill myself. They put me on the ugly list, and I would go home crying every day through high school.
They put her on the ugly list. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I would go home crying pretty much every day, and thank God for my mom, because she would literally sit by the door waiting for me to come home to make sure I was okay, because she's such a good mom.
Right.
But it was difficult in high school. Girls, that's the thing with the show, is they showed it as boys, and I'm sure it is in some cases. I feel like girls are definitely the most vicious, and I think most females would know that. But I myself went through something very similar, and I was lucky to have the support system of my amazing dad and my amazing mom, which in this show she didn't have. And I think that's the point, is you need a support system for something at the end that she went through with Bryce. I don't think all of what happened to her prior to that would have resulted in suicide. I think that at that point she was so broken because she had no support system that anything traumatic kind of boiled over to where it would result in suicide because she has nothing left.
Right.
But I myself, I've never contemplated suicide because I had such a great support system. But I mean, I went through some pretty severe bullying, and it was very difficult through high school, but because of them, I made it through. I'm out of high school. I graduated college. I'm going to anesthesia school. It all worked out, and I'm genuinely happy. And I look back and, girls are just mean, and, I don't really feel bad about it anymore, but I definitely empathize because I went through it myself, and I'm sure plenty of people, I guarantee more people than you would think have gone through it. Mike, I mean, he was bullied. My brother, he was bullied himself too, so it's very common.
I think if there's one thing that, like, my young viewers that are in high school, if there's one thing that I could tell you from watching this, is that high school is not the end of the world.
It does get better.
It does get better. Definitely. And it's almost like when you leave high school, you have a clean slate. Because when I was in high school, I had moments where I was bullied. Luckily, again, I had a good support system at home. And I had friends around me. But, there are people out there that don't have a great support system. So you have to reach out, and you got to find a way, even if it's calling a support line or something like that. There's always a better answer than suicide. That's the big point. So anyway, I love this show. I thought it was great. I'm actually looking forward to watching it again. Set aside this, the moral of the story. If you feel like you're being preached at the end of the day, it's still a really good show. I would definitely give it a purchase worthy. What kind of rating would you give it?
I would give it a purchase worthy, or even a buy it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, you don't have to use my rating system.
I'm using your rating.
I swear I'm not that egotistical. But anyway, guys, that's our review for 13 Reasons Why. I highly recommend you watch this, especially if you are a high school student. There's a big message there. And I loved this show. I loved the balls that this show had, that it took a lot of risks, really. Like I said, it's a rated R show. This is not like your after school special that's, all squeaky clean and everything. It's a hard R, but it's real, and that's what I love about it. So anyway, guys, that's it. That is our review. I hope my Jessie would join me for a Fight Club review down the line.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And thank you for joining me. I really appreciate that. You made this easy, actually.
Oh, thank you.
This is awesome. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And you want to say it with me?
What do you say? I haven't watched.
She does not watch my videos. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.